Good morning and welcome to Travels with Monkey Boy. Today we wind up our trip to Tanzania in 1994. This may have been the nicest day. Rolf and I got up early and went to the hotel's fitness center to work out. We got up a good sweat and then sat in the sauna. After a week of sitting in a car with orders not to move around and a steady diet of delicious, rich food, well, we needed to see if our hearts and lungs still worked. At 10, Jilreen, Joe, and Joe went into the city for the famous Nairobi shopping area. Rolf and I were in charge of babysitting. Since this hotel featured a swimming pool, hundreds of yards long, shaped like a lagoon with a water slide that looked like a waterfall, as you could see behind me, our job mostly consisted of sitting in lounge chairs, ordering drinks. The weather was fantastic, partly cloudy, maybe low 70s. We sat in the sun, read, and talked, and let our bodies recover from the safari. The only drawback from the day was that since it was so cool, I never thought about suntan lotion. The kids and I spent about 6 hours playing outside in the sun and around the pool. By the next morning, we all had like third-degree sunburn. Who'd have thought that my fair Irish skin would burn here, 100 miles from the equator, in the middle of the southern hemisphere's summer, at a raised elevation on a bright sunny day? Sure caught me off guard. Fortunately for me, Jilreen blamed herself, partly because she's naturally guilty and partly because she could only sense my pain, seeing as I was so red, I glowed in the dark, and seeing as the only thing on me that wasn't sunburned were the 30 or 40 mosquito bites ringing my legs. We flew home that day, and the only eventful thing about the flight was that they stole my camera. Um, so in conclusion, I love Africa. Sitting around writing this a month after it happened, I think I could go on. I could go again tomorrow. Still, it's not for everyone. It was an arduous trip, and one needs almost infinite patience to sit in a bumpy, dusty car day after day. I'd say half the people on the trip had at best a mediocre time. It was hard for me to hear their complaints since I kind of organized it, but it was understandable, and a lot of people do think vacation and relaxation are synonyms. Still, even for the naysayers, the first time you see these animals in their native state, it's awe-inspiring. I remember the first time stopping on the rim of the crater and seeing a herd of wildebeest as the tiniest dots at the furthest viewing range of my binoculars, then having everyone beg to use the binoculars so they could see the dots. Then by the fifth day, having everyone sitting and talking to each other and ignoring the great herds as we drove by. Like most of the great sights in the world, it's cool the first time or a few times you see it. After that, it's old hat. Still, if it would have been just me and Paul, I would have been up at dawn every day, going to the water holes and staking out the game trails looking for action. I found the spontaneity of it all gripping. Maybe in the Kopis, there's a lion eating a zebra, or maybe there's nothing. Uh, in that tree ahead, maybe there's a leopard, maybe there's a boa constrictor, maybe there's nothing. Down by the water hole, maybe we'll get to see the hippos coming out of the water to eat some shore grass, or maybe we'll see two males fighting, or maybe they'll just float there yawning. It's the sort of place where you get out of it what you put in. The harder you push yourself, the more likely you are to increase the size of your adventure. But it's also the sort of place where a great adventure may lay around the next corner. And there are so many corners. This was my second safari. I had done South Africa a few years ago, squeezed into a weekend on a business trip. I'm not sure I'll ever do another. And in fact, I haven't. But I'd still love to see the mountain gorillas before I die. I've never seen those great collections of flamingos and chimpanzees. It would be fun to spend an afternoon just watching them interact. And the rhinos, I want to see them up close. And I still haven't seen a kill or even a feeding. And the great rivers, the Congo, the Zambezi. I still think it would be fun to raft on them and see the great 12-foot long crocodiles sunning on the shore. And what about a night safari? You could only see aardvarks at night. And I still haven't seen any huge snakes. And maybe someday it would be fun to do a walking safari. I know it's possible in some places. Still, I've been on two safaris and I've never been on the Amazon or seen a polar bear or hiked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. For me, I guess I look at my life and see the Serengeti Plain. It's been a rich life and I've enjoyed everything I've seen, but there's a curve in the road ahead, and I don't know if it's the start of another big adventure or just another wildebeest. I'll let you know when it happens. And that is the end of the story. Let me show you real quickly the maps. Okay, so one day we drove from here to here, then we drove Arusha up to the airport by Kenya. And then the next day we flew up to Jeddah. Okay, and then we got the last couple of pictures. Anybody watching the Day of the Jackal? Here's a jackal. There's a hyena laying in the mud. There's Frankie with a bunch of the guests, a bunch of the hotel maid staff. They all dress quite beautifully. There's Frankie coming down the waterfall and Alex coming down the waterfall. This is before the sunburn set in. Okay, that's it. Thanks for traveling along with me. Hope to see you in our next adventure. I think we'll go to Nepal next.